Nephi chapter 5 verse 9, And it came to pass that they did rejoice exceedingly, and did offer sacrifice and burnt offerings unto the Lord, and they gave thanks unto the God of Israel. Are there Levites in the Book of Mormon? How will we use this verse to find the answer to that question? We're going to dig deeper into it next. How could they make burnt offerings? We read in that verse that they made burnt offerings. Well, in order to make burnt offerings, you would need the priesthood. Now, most of the cases in the Bible require the Levitical priesthood to make burnt offerings. However, there is a theory that prevails among church scholars, and one I happen to agree with, that within the Book of Mormon they operated many times under the priesthood of Melchizedek. Being called as a prophet and appearing before the divine council, Lehi would have been considered a Melchizedek priesthood holder. Various references in the Bible show non-Levitical sacrifices being made, but only by prophets who have appeared before the divine council. Two orders of priesthood are laid out very clearly in the New Testament, so it is possible that in the nuances of the law of Moses that we don't understand completely, that Lehi could have figured out a way to make all those ordinances work and live the law of Moses without a Levite. However, theory 2, a little more fun theory that I like to examine, is that Zoram was a Levite performing ordinances for the Jews in the house of Laban. Zoram's presence among Nephi and his family allowed them to strictly observe the law of Moses and maybe even teach Lehi about those sacred ordinances and how to perform them. Zoram's posterity maintained the Levitical order and performed ordinances in the temple in the New World. What's the supporting evidence for this second theory? Again, they're not mutually exclusive. They can both be true. Before Zoram, in 1 Nephi chapter 2, the family builds an altar. And it came to pass that he built an altar of stones and made an offering unto the Lord and gave thanks unto the Lord our God. Now Zoram comes along, and in 1 Nephi chapter 5, they say, And it came to pass that they did rejoice exceedingly, and did offer sacrifice and burnt offerings unto the Lord, and they gave thanks unto the God of Israel. So now, when they make a sacrifice, they do so with burnt offerings. Typically within the Bible, as I said before, this would require the presence of a Levite to perform this ordinance. Zoram held the keys of the treasury. When Nephi goes in to Laban's house to take the plates, he finds that Zoram is holding the keys to the treasury, which hold the brass plates. In 1 Chronicles 26:20, we learn that this is one of the responsibilities of the Levites. And of the Levites, Ahiah was over the treasures of the house of God and over the treasures of the dedicated things. This was the responsibility of the Levites that they held. And we know because Zoram was not part of the normal household of Laban, meaning he's referred to as a servant within the house, he would not be of the same tribe, and he would not be a Josephite through Manasseh like Laban was. Now, the tribe of Levi had no physical land of inheritance in Israel. The northern kingdom had been scattered in 721 BC, and the most likely scenario is that Laban and Lehi migrated down into the kingdom of Judah during those times. Their inheritance was the house of God and the storehouses, the treasuries that held the sacred emblems and relics, like the breastplates. It was common for sars or princes/elders of the ruling tribes to have house Levites. See Judges 17:8-13. I won't bore you by reading these verses, but just know that Micah met a Levite and asked him to come be his house Levite and live with him and perform those ordinances for him, similar to what Zoram could have been for Laban. Hugh Nibley did mention that throughout the Book of Mormon, the Zoramites always retain a special ethnic identity. They are always Zoramites and always by themselves. They never assimilate to the title of Nephite or Lamanite, and this because they were a distinct house of Israel in themselves. They needed to retain that ethnic identity. The most strict observance of the law would require a Levite. He must keep the performances and ordinances of God until the law shall be fulfilled, which was given unto Moses. In 2 Nephi 25:30, all throughout the Book of Mormon, they talk about how strictly they kept the law of Moses, especially when they get to the point that they built a temple. Once you built a temple, we see very few sacrifices being made within the walls of the temple without a Levite. Levites were the priests who performed the work of holiness inside the temple, as you can see in Numbers 18:6-8. So if this theory too is true, if Zoram was a Levite, what does that tell us about the Book of Mormon? One, that they were following the law of Moses in a very strict manner, and two, that without even mentioning the tribe of Levi, Joseph somehow incorporated this person who could have performed those ordinances, made sure he did not allow any ordinances to perform before he became part of the group, and allowed them to be performed after he was part of the group, but then never mentioned that this man was a Levite. This is an omission that could have been made if in a real setting, but to set this up this way and then never mention it would seem very unlikely.